around GCSE high school topics, because I know that the time's coming soon for GCSE, and I thought the best time would be now. And you can literally put this video on even when you're revising, and it might help you revise better because it's in a more peaceful setting instead of someone screaming at you. Or you can literally put this on before you sleep, and maybe, you never know. You know how people say if you sleep with the book next to you, you just inhale the information of the book. Maybe the same can happen in this ASMR video. Anyways, so I want you to do the topic on expanding and factorising double brackets. So, if I'm on a pen, expanding and factorising double brackets. So, first, what are double brackets? Also, if you can hear tapping in the back, it's just my pen writing. I think some people like it. Hopefully, there's not a lot of people that don't like it. I seem to quite enjoy the sound, but of course, just let me know. So, let's see. Double brackets can look like, and I'll give you an example. Let's say x plus 3, x plus 5. Now it's a double bracket, of course, because that's one bracket and that's one bracket. So that's why it's a double bracket. And it each contains 2 terms. So it has that and that and that and that. And that's why it's a double bracket. So when we are expanding the bracket, we are multiplying everything in the first. So I'll say it's the first. Either one can be the first, but we'll say that one's first since it's the first one. With, say this is the second. With the second bracket. So, now I don't know what is being taught in schools, but I can teach you what I was taught in school. So we had the FOIL method, and that stands for, so the F, I'll do in the back, stands for first, then the O stands for outer or outside, and then we have the I, which is inner or inside, whichever is easier for you to remember. And then we have the L, which stands for last. Oh, wait. L, which stands for last. So, what that really means is, if I carry on with the example we had above, x plus 3, x plus 5. Now what do you think the first is? The first is the first. So that's that, and then so we'll do red as the first, and then the outer, what would you say the outer is? The 2 that are on the outside, that's the second, and then the inner, which is the 2 inside, and then last, which is the 2 that are last in the bracket. So if you were to go by that, if I write it down, f is the first, so it'd be x times x, which is x squared, and then outer, which is x times 5, which is 5x, and then the inner, which is x times 3, which equals 3x, and last, which is 3 times 5, which is 15. So here where I did x times 3, it was that and that. Obviously you can write as 3 times x. I just thought just line the x's up on the left hand side, but either way is fine, you'll get the same answer. So when you get that, you can write all at the bottom what you've got. So it'll be x squared plus 5x plus 3x plus 15. Now we know that them two can actually be added together. So it would equal, actually I'll write it here, x squared plus 8x plus 15. And that would be your answer. Now, if we'll try another example. So if I just do 2, to example 1. If we had x plus 4, x plus 2. Now if we do the same, first, which is that and that, so it's x times x, which is x squared, then outer, which is this times this, because they're both outside, letters and numbers in the bracket, so it would be x times 2 is 2x, and then inner, which is that and that, so it's 4 times x, which is 4x, and then last, which is that and that, which is 4 times 2, which is 8. So we can write it all at the bottom, plus 8, and it ends up being x squared, and then we know we can add them together, plus 6x plus 8, and that is your answer for that one. Now we've only really looked at expanding positive numbers. Now let's look at what would happen if we had expanding with negative numbers. So for example, let's say we had x plus 7, x minus 3 this time. So we can do the exact same method, first, outer, inner, last, but we just need to be more careful about where the signs are going. So let's see, start with the first, which is x times x, which is x squared, and then the outer. Now if we look, we have x times, and this is a minus 3. So you have to write, before it would have been a positive where you don't really need to include the sign, because for most of the time we just, if there's no sign, we think of it as we don't really need to write the positive in front, whereas with a negative you do, and the answer would be minus 3x. Now when we look at inner, we have x times 7, which is 7x, and then last, which is again 7 times minus 3, which is minus 21. Now we can write that all down here. X squared minus 3x plus 7x minus 21. Now we can keep it as this, which obviously you can do minus 3 plus 7, or even if you want to write it in an easier way, you can just rearrange the equation like this, just so it looks easier for you to figure out what we're doing here. So it's a plus 7 minus 3, which is 4. So the answer would be x squared plus 4x and then minus 21. Right now, it's still a positive. It can always end up being a negative, this, but we got a positive, which of course is still the right answer. Now we can do another example. Let's see if I do x minus 6, x minus 2. Now we have two negatives. So if I do first out in our last, it's, you can quickly do this, x squared outer, which is x times minus 2, which is minus 2x, inner, which is minus 6 times x, which is minus 6x, and then last, now they're both negatives, so it'd be minus 6 times minus 2. Now if we get two negatives, what do we end up with? We end up with a positive, so it would be 12, positive 12. Now when we write this, it would be x squared minus 2x minus 6x plus 12. Now when we do minus 2 minus 6, we get an even more negative. So we get x squared minus 8x plus 12, and that would be your answer. Now, what is factorising? What is factorising? Before we expanded, which was you're getting what the actual equation looks like when there's no bracket. Now factorising is basically the opposite. It's the reverse of expanding. This time you start with an equation, for example, like this, plus 15, and you factorize it. That is what you're doing when you're putting it back into brackets. So this one, it would be x plus 3, x plus 5. I think that's the one we worked out earlier. It's pretty much just doing that way. So I would say this way, let me do it like that. So that way, going downwards, that's called factorising, that's called that. And then going back up, this is called expanding, what we just looked at. So let's look at an example. If we had x squared plus 7x plus 12. Now first we want to start off with this number, and we want to see what the different possible pairs that you can multiply to get 12. So if we're basically finding numbers that multiply to 12, so we can start off with the basic one. So if I just write here, we have 12 times 1, which is of course 12. Then if we look at times 2, what do we times 2 by to get 12? 6. So that's another possible pair. And then we have 3, what do we times 3 by 4, which is also 12. And then obviously you can just write 4 times 3, which is the same thing. 5 times, there's nothing, so we can't really do 5. And then the 6 goes back to that. So that's pretty much the ones that we have. We don't really need to include the last two because we already have it at the top. Now, after we've done that, the next step is to find from these pairs which one of the pairs, when you add the two numbers together, so these, which one of them add up to this number. So we have 12 plus 1, which is 12. No, sorry, 12 plus 1, which is 13. And then we have 6 plus 2, which is 8. So that wouldn't work either. But we have 4 plus 3, which equals 7. Now that is the same as that. So we know we're using this stuff. So all we have to really do now is write into the brackets. So we have x plus 4 and x plus 3. And that should get you that. Now the best way to figure out if you've got it right is just by expanding it out again. So you have first out in our last x times x, which is x squared, and then we have x times 3, which is 3x, x times 4, which is 4x, and then 4 times 3, which is 12. Now if we do that all together, we get x squared plus 7x plus 12, and therefore we know it works. Now we know that it's the right two numbers, we can just put it back. So we know it's x plus 4 and x plus 3. Now let's try this again with some negative numbers. So if I had, let me take the bracket out. If I had x squared plus x minus 12. So what we do, we start off with this. We need two numbers that multiply to make a minus 12 this time. So of course we have our generic 12 times minus 1, which is minus 12. Or this time we could also write minus 12 times 1, which also gives minus 12. Then we have 6 times minus 2, which is minus 12, and minus 6 times 2, which is minus 12. Then we also have, 4 times minus 3, which is minus 12, and then minus 4 times 3, which is also minus 12. Now, out of these, we need to find two that make, now there's no number in front of the x, but we know the number to be 1. So we need any two from these that add up to make a 1. Now we can cancel the first 4 out because we know that would not make 1. Now let's work this way. There'd be 4 plus minus 3, which is 1. Let's just double check the other one. It'd be minus 4 plus 3, and that makes minus 1. So we know it is that one. Now what we can do is we can just put that into the brackets. So it will be x plus 4 and x minus 3. And that would make our equation on top. Of course, if we quickly check it, let's see, first and then outer, inner, last, that's x squared plus x minus 12, and that works. So with negatives, it's just, you have a few more options you can pick from, but you will eventually get to that answer. Now, let's see. Let's do some key points. Key points of topic. Expanding equals multiplying. The brackets out, and factorising is a reverse process. Getting it back into brackets. we're doing whilst factorising is we're looking for numbers that multiply to make the last term and the same numbers being added to make the middle term. And then we can always check our answer by expanding the brackets back out. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope it was a good enough explanation. Hope you can use this for your GCSEs, and yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, give it a like. I'm going to be making a lot more GCSE topic videos, so stay tuned for that. And if you're asleep, I hope you have a very, very good sleep. But yeah, thank you for watching. Goodbye.